Part 55. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 541. After hearing Wang Feng's words, the faces of everyone present became extremely solemn. They had carefully read the Devourer's information. Although the strength divisions such as 5th-level creatures, 6th-level creatures, etc. marked on it, they don't quite understand it yet. However, they have fought with the Predators, the lowest combat unit of the Devourers. Even the elite-level Devourers have appeared in Bizhu continent. They are quite familiar with the strength of these two Devourers. Now they know that when the Brood comes and the Devourer army officially launches its invasion, even the commander-level Devourers, which are one level higher than the elites, will appear in groups, and they can't help but feel a sense of despair. Mr. Wang. If it is such a powerful enemy, then we humans, do we still have hope? Turiyaha looked at Wang Feng and asked. The most powerful man of the fighting nation actually asks such a question. It is obvious that this nation, which is famous for fighting, does not seem to be so optimistic about future wars. You are the current actual managers of Bizhu continent. If you all feel that there is no hope in the future, then Bizhu continent will most likely fall in the first round of Devourer's attack. Wang Feng looked at them and said, he was also helpless now. He knew that the strength of the Devourer was indeed very powerful, but he could not hide it. He had to let these people clearly understand the strength of the Devourer, so that he could use it in the future. In war, there is some psychological preparation. You must remember. This invasion is global, and no one can escape it. Unless you have the ability to escape to outer space and find another planet suitable for human survival, otherwise, you must either defeat them or death, there is no third way. Wang Feng looked at Turiyaha and Augustine and said. Of course, you can choose to do nothing. In the year before the Devourer arrives, indulge in sex and enjoy the last year of your life. If there are people who think so, you can leave now, because what I say below is for those who have the courage to face their enemies and the confidence to defeat them. Mr. Wang. Just tell me. I won't give up anyway. No matter who they are, no matter how powerful they are, even if they die, I will definitely make them pay some price. Augustine looked at Wang Feng and said, but his tone was quite lack of confidence, as if he felt that he was dead. It seemed that the feeling that Devourer brought to them was deep powerlessness and despair. Actually, the Devourer is not that difficult to deal with, Wang Feng said. He felt that he must dispel the despair of these people. Otherwise, after the Devourer arrives, these people may not even be able to contain the Devourer. Arrive. They also have a weakness, which is fire. Therefore, you can gather a large number of Fire Awakeners to form a special team to deal with the Devourer. Wang Feng then used his Guardian Legion to deal with the Devourer in detail. Told them again. After hearing that the Guardian Legion could kill the Devourer without any injuries, these guys became interested, especially Toliyaha. After Wang Feng finished speaking, he asked a detailed question, as if he was preparing to imitate the Guardian Legion. Also create an army composed of Fire Awakeners and Defensive Awakeners. How many other cities with underground fortresses are there in Bizhu continent? After Turiyaha finished asking his question, he stepped aside, gathered someone together, and discussed in a low voice, while Wang Feng turned his head. He looked at Augustine and asked this question. Everyone in Bizhu continent is here now, and the underground fortress in the city is definitely not able to accommodate so many people, and gathering all the people together is quite effective when dealing with zombies, but when the Devourer, it's definitely not a good idea to do this when the army is invading. Many cities in Bizhu continent have similar emergency shelters, but there are only 8 cities with large enough scale, complete facilities, and strong underground fortresses, including ours. Augustine thought carefully. Then, he replied in a positive tone. 8 seats. Wang Feng's eyes lit up, and he immediately took out a tablet computer from his apocalypse space, and then pulled up the map of Bizhu continent. Tell me which 8 cities are they? Augustine took the tablet, marked 8 cities on it, and handed the tablet to Wang Feng. Fortunately, he was the leader of the Blood Hand Party, and the Blood Hand Party's power spread almost throughout the north before the end of the world. I am from mainland China, so I am so familiar with these cities. Wang Feng looked at the 8 marked cities, studied them carefully for a long time, then clicked a few times on the tablet, and then handed the tablet to Augustine. Can you use the fastest speed to transfer these cities, win 5 cities? Augustine took the tablet and looked at it, and found that these 5 cities, plus the current city of Dilit, just formed an irregular circle, so he looked at it and said, it would be better to win these cities. There is no big problem. Mr. Wang means that we need to spread out to these cities. That's right, Wang Feng nodded affirmatively, and then pointed in the direction of the inner city. Now that everyone is concentrated like this, when the Devourer army invades in the future, the Devourer army only needs to surround this place and slowly eat it. Drop you. In a situation like the outer city, it is impossible to resist the Devourer's attack. You were able to block the Devourer before because they did not have enough troops. So when the Devourer's nest comes here, it is best for you all to be in the fortress. Only by relying on favorable terrain to resist the Devourer can we have hope of victory. Alas, Augustine sighed, what you said is indeed a good method, but I guess it is not easy to implement here. If all the people are divided into 6 cities, they can all live in it. In the underground fortress, the problem is that our well, they are awakened ones, and we have too few awakened ones. According to the strength of the Devourer army you mentioned, if we gather all the awakened ones in one city, we may be able to rely on the defense system of the underground fortress to resist the Devourer's attack. If we divide these awakened ones into 6, I'm afraid. Seeing Augustine frowning, Wang Feng smiled and said, this is indeed a very serious problem, but I think I have a way to solve it. There are not enough awakened people, so why don't we cultivate more awakened people? Mr. Wang means. Augustine looked at Wang Feng in confusion. Cultivating awakened people? Does Wang Feng mean to let the awakened ones clean up those 5 cities, kill the high-level zombies among them, and leave the strengthening liquid to the evolved ones? This method seems feasible, but in fact it is basically impossible. Those awakened people cannot be so kind to clean up the zombies and then give the benefits to others. If he had issued this order, there would probably not be any how many people will implement it. The reason why so many cities are now occupied by zombies is because if the zombies in these cities are to be truly cleaned up, those awakened ones will most likely perish. After all, those high-level zombies are not that easy to deal with. Moreover, after becoming awakened, countless people have tried to use the strengthening liquid of high-level zombies to try to break through to a higher level. Toryaha even led a team to hunt down high-level zombies. Although he successfully killed several high-level zombies, after using so much strengthening liquid, there was no reaction at all. This makes them believe that the awakened ones are already the highest level that humans can achieve. Therefore, the awakened ones of the Avengers will always hide in Dilit City and no longer go out to hunt easily. Zombies, because they feel like they're not getting any benefits. Only those who are motivated by profit can generate motivation. Now, only those zombie hunting teams, in order to earn alliance coins, will go to cities occupied by zombies to hunt zombies. However, as Wang Feng had seen before, these zombie hunting teams were also on the outskirts of the city. On the premise of ensuring their own safety, they hunted down some low-level zombies and brought the corpses back to sell for money. As for the central area, basically no one will go deep into it, because the rewards are not proportional to the risks. So if you want those awakened people to help the evolved people, Augustine feels that the difficulty is not ordinary, and even if someone is willing to, because the probability of promotion is too low, it is estimated that there will not be a sufficient number of awakened people. The awakened people here now basically succeeded in advancing through the period when the thick fog came, with the help of the life energy in the thick fog and the strengthening liquid of high-level zombies. After the thick fog dissipated, there are very few new awakened ones appearing. Looking at Augustine's expression, Wang Feng guessed what he was thinking, so he said seriously, "Don't worry, since I said this, I can do it as soon as I am sure. Do you know how I advanced? To break through the awakened ones, you don't just rely on the strengthening liquid in the zombie's head, because after breaking through the awakened ones, humans can step into the threshold of 5th level creatures. And if you want to become a 5th level creature, the most important thing is the origin of life, which is why my broken finger can be regenerated just now. This is the function of the origin of life. All living bodies that become 5th level creatures will have this kind of self-healing ability, and the source of life I can just provide some." Wang Feng looked at Augustine, who looked shocked, chuckled, and said, "Doomsday Special Forces." Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 542. Hearing Wang Feng's words, Augustine's shock was simply indescribable. He originally thought that the awakened person was the limit of human beings, but now Wang Feng's words undoubtedly opened a door to the strong for him. "I'm telling you now that I can help you." Wang Feng looked at Augustine and said something that made Augustine almost ecstatic, "My power is very strange. I can kill zombies. The enhanced fluid in the brain is purified and synthesized. So, you can kill zombies, collect the strengthening fluid in their brains, and use this to exchange for potions with me. As for how to exchange, I will tell you later. Evolvers can use these strengthening fluids to exchange with me. After taking the awakening potion, you can become 100% awakened after about 10 days of awakening. As for those who have reached the level of awakening, they can exchange strengthening liquid with me for life potion. After the awakened person uses the life potion, the source of life will appear in his body. After possessing the source of life, he may be able to entering the realm of level 5 creatures. But I'm not sure how long it will take to advance, because it varies from person to person. It may take more than 10 days, maybe a few months or even longer, but at least once the source of life is in the body, there is hope of advancement. However, before that, Dilit City must undergo an integration. Everyone must join your Avengers. My potion exchange is only open to members of the Avengers." Having said this, Wang Feng looked at Innovik and the free people behind him. "I know you don't like to be restrained, but Innovik, we humans are about to face the biggest crisis, so I hope that you can all join the Avengers for now. I don't think Augustine will interfere too much with you. In fact, it can be regarded as a relatively loose mutual aid alliance. As long as those 5 cities are captured, everyone will be evenly distributed according to their strength, including Dirit City. The 6 cities will help each other when the Devourer arrives. I think it is not impossible to defeat the Devourer. If we win the final victory and destroy all the Devourers, you can still choose to leave and resume your status as free people. Augustine will not make things difficult for you. If we fail, haha, then we will all die. There's no need to think about anything else." "Feng, is what you said about the potion true?" Innovik looked at the people around him, then looked at Wang Feng and asked. "Of course," Wang Feng shrugged and said, "I don't have the courage to deceive so many people at once. However, I need to declare in advance that the awakening potion is basically unlimited, as long as there is enough strengthening fluid. It can be redeemed, but the life potion is not unlimited. As for the quantity of life potion, I'm not sure yet. Anyway, it's first come, first served, and you'll get it after redeeming it. Besides, I can only stay here for a month at most, because I have to travel to 2 other continents. So you'd better decide as soon as possible." Wang Feng's real target is Dr. Chris in Khitan City on the western continent. Maybe if they find Dr. Chris, they can find a way to unlock the mysterious seal in the body. However, the current situation in the northern continent makes Wang Feng have to stay here for a while. With a population of close to 200 million, Wang Feng definitely did not want to give up easily. It took him a month to build 6 fortresses that could contain the Devourer in Bizhu continent. For Wang Feng, this was definitely worth it. Augustine, Inovik, Turiyaha and others all gathered together and discussed for about half an hour. Finally, Augustine came to Wang Feng. After taking a deep breath, he firmly said, "Mr. Wang, we have decided to do exactly what you want. We are going to announce this now. The entire Dilit city, regardless of the outer city or the inner city, will become the jurisdiction of the Avengers. Everyone here must join the Avengers and must obey our commands. And the Avengers will also be renamed the Resistance Alliance. This alliance exists specifically to resist Devourer. Of course, if there are enemies after Devourer, then this Resistance Alliance will continue to exist. Before dawn tomorrow, we will do this completely. By then, anyone who does not join the Resistance Alliance will be driven out of here. Then we will start elections again, and all 6 cities will elect mayors. As for Mr. Wang, he will also become our honorary leader. The Resistance Alliance will become Mr. Wang's ally and form an offensive and defensive alliance with the Hope Base in the East Continent to jointly resist the Devourer. Moreover, if Mr. Wang goes to Zizhu Continent and Nanzhou Continent, he can represent us fully and form an alliance with the forces on those 2 continents. Humans on our planet should all unite to resist the Devourer. Of course, if Mr. Wang has any good ideas, you can put them forward and we will seriously consider them." After Augustine finished speaking, he looked at Wang Feng expectantly. "Yes. That's okay," Wang Feng nodded, "but I think there is no need to divide the garrison personnel in the 6 cities immediately. After you have integrated them all tomorrow, you can concentrate all your forces and clear out one city. And then let the non-combatants move in first, open up farmland and grow food in the city. Anyway, the Devourer should not appear now, so we will first clean up one city one by one, and clean up the other 5 cities and the areas between them. Food will be grown on top and fortresses will be inhabited below. At least each city must be insured first. Cities can be self-sufficient. After the food problem is solved, consider building the city's defense system. The information on Devourer has been given to you. You can find talents in this field to design a relatively perfect defense system specifically for Devourer. And then all 6 cities were built according to this defense system. You have nearly a year. I think this period of time should be enough for you to concentrate all the resources of the entire Bizhu continent on these 6 cities and build 6 strong defensive fortresses to prepare for the arrival of the Devourer army. Be prepared. As for the alliance between our 4 continents, it seems to be of little significance at present, because all the communication satellites have been destroyed long ago, and the sea routes are not safe. There is no possibility of support or communication between our 4 continents. In the battle with the Devourer, our 4 continents can only fight on their own. Now I only hope that after the Devourer army arrives, they will launch attacks on 4 continents at the same time, so that our hope of victory will be greater. If they choose to concentrate their forces and mainly attack one continent, then we will really be in danger." Hearing Wang Feng's words, Augustine's face became solemn. Wang Feng was right. If the Devourer army chooses to attack a continent with all its strength, there is really nothing that can be done. The 4 continents are isolated by the sea, and the mutated beasts in the sea are quite ferocious now, making it impossible to carry out large-scale transportation on the sea. Therefore, by then, their 4 continents will really be like what Wang Feng said. Fighting alone. This situation further strengthened Augustine's determination to integrate all the survivors of Bizhu continent. Before, it was because he didn't know the horror of Devourer and thought that Devourer should have left, so Augustine did the layout of Dilit city as an inner and outer city is maintained. Now, it is necessary to bring all humans together to clean up the zombies, improve their strength, and build 6 military bases that can watch each other. Fortunately, he still has some that were originally used by the Blood Hand Party. That ancient communication device that relies on wires to communicate. After all 6 cities were cleared and communication lines were set up, communication between the 6 cities would not be a problem. This was somewhat of an advantage for Bizhu continent. In addition, since Bizhu continent has always focused on military development, there are quite a lot of thermal weapons. They can even build an arsenal in this year. By then, they will be more confident in dealing with Devourer. However, there are quite a lot of things to do, and the time left for them is less than a year. Therefore, for Augustine and the others, the next year will be a crazy and busy year for them. I understand, Augustine nodded, then turned to everyone present and said, everyone. We don't have much time. We will start integrating Dilit, Turiyaha, Colliers immediately. The army, as we just decided, will start taking action immediately. Inovik, you also go gather your men and cooperate with Turiyaha. We must complete the integration of all survivors before tomorrow morning. Those who refuse to join us will all be driven out of Dilit. Then, start taking back our city. Mr. Wang can only stay with us for a month. The extent to which our strength can be improved depends on how fast we can clean up the zombies. You just heard that Mr. Wang's awakening potion can be supplied in unlimited quantities. The more awakened people in our resistance alliance, the greater our hope of victory in the future. So everyone, the next one let's start the crazy killing mode, let's go for it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 543. Everyone looked at Augustine, then at Wang Feng, and agreed loudly. Although almost all of the people present were awakened people, the awakening potion basically had no temptation for them. But the emergence of life potion gave them hope for their own advancement for the first time. After becoming awakened, these people have tried countless times, but no one has been able to break through the awakening and reach the next level. Now they know that they cannot break through because of the origin of life. Now that they have a goal, these awakened people will naturally regain their motivation. Especially, Augustine is right, the awakened people on his side are getting better and better. The more, the greater their chance of survival in the future. After all, the stronger the resistance alliance is, the higher the security will be for members of the alliance. Even if there is no benefit, they will probably do it, not to mention, now there is the temptation of the origin of life. Wang Feng said that the number of life sources is limited, so this must be done as soon as possible to get a life potion for himself. The higher his strength, the greater the chance of survival in the future. Besides, Kin Lim regeneration, who wouldn't want to have this magical ability? Everyone in the church quickly left, leaving only Augustine and Wang Feng. Augustine looked at Wang Feng and sighed softly, Mr. Wang, you are very young, but you do things well but quite sophisticated. It has only been a few hours since you arrived here. First you calmed the scene with bloody massacres, and then you used awakening potions and the source of life to seduce everyone, making us unknowingly become your supporters. If you stay here, I think it won't be long before you can become the actual leader of Bizhu continent. You don't have to worry about this. Wang Feng shook his head, I will not stay here. My relatives and friends are all in Dongzhou continent. Besides, I have very important things to do when I go to Zizhu continent. Maybe I will go there. I can find a way to unlock the mysterious seal within our bodies. I'm not worried. On the contrary, to be honest, I still hope you can stay here. If you are willing to stay, I am willing to give up my seat and be your deputy. Augustine shook his head and said with a bitter smile. In fact, no matter when people compete for power, it is to make themselves live a better life. After getting the details of the Devourer, I suddenly don't care about my current power at all. You can only exercise power for 1 year. What are you going to do? This is also the main reason why we were able to reach an agreement with those free people so quickly just now. I allocated 3 cities to them. By then, the people living in those 3 cities most of the people will be those who live in outer cities. I only hope that when the Devourer army comes, our 6 cities in Bazhu can help each other and get through this crisis together. If we can't get through it, no matter how much we have, what's the use? If you think so, there is still hope for Bazhu continent. Wang Feng patted Augustine on the shoulder and said, Inovic is a good guy. You'd better treat him as a partner. Rather than being subordinates, only in this way can you truly become an offensive and defensive alliance. I understand this, Augustine nodded. If I can survive this crisis, I am willing to be an ordinary survivor. I just hope that when everything is ready, the Devourer army will begin to invade. At this time, our 6 fortress cities can really help each other instead of fighting independently. Wang Feng nodded but said nothing. When the war really comes, who knows what will happen? Moreover, this is Bazhu continent, and Wang Feng can only try to improve their overall strength. As for when the war breaks out, the survivors on each continent can only rely on the weapons in their hands, and the people around them. Comrades. At this moment, Kavya ran in. He looked at Wang Feng and said with a somewhat embarrassed expression, Mr. Wang, people from the Juhan tribe are looking for you and say they have something important to tell you. They haven't left yet, Augustine frowned. Originally, they were ready to leave, but because the people who just left the church spread some news, the Juhan clan and the Tianzhou clan also heard it, so they didn't want to leave. Kavya carefully explained, they are at the city gate now. They said they want to see Mr. Wang. They have something important to tell you. I don't know whether to ignore them, so I came here to ask. When Augustine heard this, he did not make a rash decision for Wang Feng. He just looked at Wang Feng to see how he would choose. Haha. Let's go and have a look. Anyway, I'm fine now. It should take a long time for you to integrate Dilit's personnel. Wang Feng suddenly smiled and walked outside. At this time, the entire city of Dilit was already in action, and there were voices everywhere talking about the newly established Resistance Alliance. In fact, this integration was mainly aimed at the free people in the outer city, while those in the inner city were basically seeking revenge. For members of the alliance, nothing has changed. Toyaha and Inovic are conveying the establishment of the Resistance Alliance and the upcoming recovery of the other 5 cities to the survivors in the outer city. Of course, the fact that the strengthening liquid can be exchanged for potions is the focus of their propaganda. As long as there is the temptation of potions, basically there will be no problem with this integration. After all, even a guy like Inovic has reached an agreement with Augustine. Moreover, even if they join the Resistance Alliance, they are not subject to too much control. Instead, they can get a lot of benefits. The most important thing is that Wang Feng's potion is only open for exchange within the Resistance Alliance, which means that those who want to get potions can only choose to join the Resistance Alliance. As for whether they can contribute to the future war after joining, it is not Wang Feng's concern. This is the North Continent, so such things should be left to Augustine and Inovic to worry about. The 2 tribes, the Juhan and Tianzhou, originally gathered together and prepared to leave, because even if they wanted to, they had no choice. Turayaha's army had already monitored all of them. The 2 tribes combined only had a population of more than 2 million, and they had no power to compete with the Avengers, so they could only choose to leave. In any case, if all of them gathered together, they should still be able to clear out a city, which is better than staying here to fight the Avengers. However, as they were leaving, Wang Feng and his team had already finished their discussion. As the people in the church came out, the decision they had just made soon spread in the outer city, especially the potion exchange mentioned by Wang Feng. Whether they were evolvers or awakeners, their eyes lit up after hearing it. In this Doomsday, the improvement of one's own strength is the most important thing, and the Zhuhan and Tianzhao tribes are no exception. When they heard about the magical potion, they could no longer move. Now they are all cursing their leader. Why do they flatter Toriaha? Obviously Wang Feng is the winner. You don't flatter the winner, but flatter his defeated subordinates. Isn't this courting death? It is said that if you don't court death, you won't die. Now it's all right? The two idiots not only died themselves, but also brought a lot of strong people around them to die in the massacre. They also implicated the people of their two tribes, who were all driven out of Dilit city and had to fend for themselves outside. Although they were somewhat unwilling, they did not dare to resist, because Kavya told them very clearly that if they refused to leave, the broken bodies in the slaughterhouse just now would be their role models. In order to maintain the integrity of their body tissues, these people had no choice but to leave, but before leaving, they heard about the awakening potion and life potion, and they also knew that these things could only be exchanged with strengthening liquid after joining the resistance alliance. In other words, if they left, then these two potions would have nothing to do with them. So the leaders of the two tribes immediately went to discuss together. They felt that they could not leave, because the opportunity before them might be the opportunity for their two tribes to take off. Although they were not many in number, and their lives in Dilit city were not satisfactory, the two tribes had one thing in common, that is, they were very self-righteous. Almost all of them believed that their race was extremely noble, and even had the blood of the gods in their bodies. The Tianzhao tribe claimed that they were the blood of the Tianzhao god left in this world. They were all descendants of God and the spokespersons of the Tianzhao god in this world. As for the Zhuhan tribe, their origins were even more awesome. All awesome people, no matter which continent or country this person belongs to, no matter whether this person is yellow, white, or black, after their detailed research, must be compatriots of their tribe. At least in the body of this great person, there is the blood of their Zhuhan tribe, because only the excellent genes of their race can create such a great person. Including those awesome inventions and important cultural heritage, they were naturally invented by their people. The reason, of course, is that their Zhuhan tribe possesses the best genes in the world. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 544. Since the blood of these two races is so noble, why have they fallen to this point? They have been wondering about this question in their hearts. They think that they should be the rulers of this world, and everyone should face them with respect and fear. The reason why these two races with noble blood have never been taken seriously has finally been found. That is the two potions mentioned by those inferior races. Since the people of these inferior races can improve their strength after using this potion, then if they use such a potion, how powerful will they be with noble blood and divine blood? Moreover, the guy who can have such magical abilities and synthesize such a great potion must have the blood of their Zhuhan race in his blood. This makes sense. How could those guys of inferior races have such magical abilities? The guy named Wang Feng must be from their Zhuhan race, but for some reason, he ended up in the Dongzhou continent. He must know his identity. He is a member of the noble Zhuhan people. He should not mix with those lowly people. He should return to their midst, and then use those potions to improve the strength of all their people. At that time, they will be the masters of this Bizhu continent, no. The masters of the entire world. What is the devourer? In front of the noble Zhuhan people, they have only two choices, surrender or die. Thinking of this, the leaders of the Zhuhan people were very excited. They suddenly felt that the hope of the rise of the Zhuhan people was in front of them. As long as that of their own people returned to them, their Zhuhan people would rise rapidly, dominate the planet, and regain the ruling position that should have belonged to them. Therefore, they gathered at the door and were reluctant to leave. As for the Tianzhao people, because the Zhuhan people are relatively small now, and the people of the Tianzhao people have just exceeded 2 million people, and the people of the two peoples have similar tastes, they often flatter each other together, and the relationship on the surface is still harmonious. So, when the people of the Zhuhan tribe discovered that Wang Feng was actually one of their tribesmen, the people of the Tianzhou tribe did not express doubt, but helped them confirm Wang Feng's identity. In the eyes of the Tianzhou tribe, if Wang Feng was really persuaded by the people of the Zhuhan tribe, it would be of certain benefit to them, at least, they would not be driven out again. Moreover, the two ethnic groups have always been close, at least on the surface, they are as close as family. The Zhuhan tribe has benefited, and the Tianzhou tribe can naturally get a few sips of soup. Now, although the members of the two tribes have all arrived outside the wall of the outer city of Dilit, they have not left, but gathered there, waiting for Wang Feng's arrival. After Wang Feng walked out of the church, he jumped directly onto the hurricane and directed the hurricane to drive towards the city gate where the two tribesmen gathered. Although the population of these two tribes is small, it is only relative to the 200 million survivors in the entire Dilit city. After all, it is more than 2 million people, gathered outside the city gate, which can be said to be a sea of people, quite spectacular. But if you walk in and take a look, it doesn't look so good, because these people are all ragged and pale. Although they are now full of vigor and vitality because they see the hope of their national rejuvenation, they still can't hide their haggard and desolate appearance. Seeing Wang Feng standing on the hurricane, the eyes of the Zhuhan clan leaders lit up. The more they looked at Wang Feng, the more he looked like one of their own. That nose, eyes, and mouth, how much like a Zhuhan clan member. At least, the number of these facial features is the same as theirs, right? Wang Feng looked at the expressions of these people and couldn't help but wonder in his heart, wondering if these people are sick. Just after he killed his leader, he was shot by Qiu Jian, which can be said to be a heavy casualty. Now they have been driven out of Dilit city, and it can be said that they have no place to stay. But why do these guys look so happy now? This is a bit, not in line with common sense. With doubts in his heart, Wang Feng jumped off the hurricane, walked in front of them, and asked softly. Who said there was something important to tell me? Now you can tell me. Several Zhuhan clan leaders looked at each other, then looked at the hurricane behind Wang Feng, and Qiu Jian, who was already on standby at the firing position of the 6-barrel machine gun, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, then took a few steps forward and turned his side to Wang Feng. Sir Wang Feng. Excuse me, is your surname Wang? Among the few people, a middle-aged man with a somewhat majestic appearance looked at Wang Feng and asked seriously. Wang Feng frowned, just say it directly. Don't try to get close to me. This person clearly knew his name, but he still asked if he had the surname Wang. Is he mentally ill? No, the middle-aged man shook his head and said solemnly, I am not trying to get close to you. What I am about to say is the truth, and it should be very important to you. My surname is Pu, and my given name is Wanji. The man next to me is surnamed Li, and his name is Li Wugan. His ancestor was a famous doctor in Dongzhou. According to the historical records of our Zhuhan nation, our miracle doctor traveled to the East Continent and left behind several branches of blood in the East Continent. One of them was named Wang. We just heard that your superpower is a synthetic potion. We all know that when a human becomes an awakened person, the superpower he awakens is related to his bloodline or physical attributes. Your superpower is synthetic potion, and your surname is still Wang. That's why we thought that you should be the miraculous doctor from Li Wuqian's ancestor, the bloodline left on the Dongzhou continent. He is a miraculous doctor, and medicine is inseparable from the miraculous doctor. So, maybe you and Li Wuqian are brothers, it's from the same family, which means you are actually from our Zhuhan nation. At this point, the middle-aged man's eyes filled with tears and his voice trembled as he said, Child. You are our family. Now we have finally found you. Welcome home. With that said, the guy took a few steps forward and wanted to hug Wang Feng. However, before he could reach Wang Feng, A knife was pressed against his throat and he dared not move any further. Wang Feng, who was holding Tiankai, looked at Park Wanji in front of him. He couldn't tell what he felt in his heart. He didn't expect that there was such a shameless person in the world. Of course he knew about the miracle doctor surnamed Li, but when did this miracle doctor become a member of the Zhuhan tribe? And what's even more awesome is that this miracle doctor is still immortal and has left behind several branch bloodlines. It just so happens that there is one bloodline with a compound surname, and it is also his ancestor. How much does this miracle doctor like to follow fashion? He actually gave his child a compound surname. And it is said that this is the historical data record of their Zhuhan tribe. Damn it, you have hundreds of years of history. If you don't understand something, go home and ask your grandfather, wouldn't you know? What other historical materials are needed? You just said, "What's your name?" Wang Feng looked at the tearful middle-aged man in front of him and asked a little funny. Park Man Ki, the middle-aged man said with sobs. Park Wanji. Your name is quite expensive, isn't it? Wang Feng said. What is your ancestor's surname? Of course the surname is Park. The middle-aged man was stunned and didn't understand how Wang Feng could ask such a mentally retarded question. Pa, Wang Feng instantly put away Tiankai, and then slapped Park Wanji on the face. You know you should have the same surname as your ancestor. Your Excellency Wang Feng, please don't misunderstand. According to our historical records. Li Wuqian stepped forward quickly and tried to explain. As a result, Wang Feng did not wait for him to finish his words and slapped Li Wuqian again. Before he finished speaking, Wang Feng slapped him in the mouth and made him spin around. When I named you, I told you to do it in the back room. Why didn't you listen to me? Why did you go outside and scream? Are you looking for a slap in the face? Wang Feng looked at him with disdain. Looking at these people from the Zhuhan clan and Tianzhou clan. I've known for a long time that you guys are shameless, but I didn't expect that you could reach this level. I really admire you. To deal with a thick-skinned guy like you, I have to slap you in the face. Aren't you thick-skinned? I'm just. If you make it thicker, it's best if you can directly use your skin to resist the attacks of zombies and devourers, then you will be invincible. Your Excellency Wang Feng, you misunderstood. You are really our Zhuhan. Halfway through Park Wanji's words, Wang Feng's Tiankai was placed on his neck again. Looking at Park Wanji, Wang Feng said coldly. Shut up. I know who I am. I'm not thick-skinned enough, and I still have a sense of shame. From these 2 points, I'm not the same type of person as you. You idiot, if you talk about me again, you are from that shitty nation, believe it or not, I will chop you to death with a knife, you son of a bitch. Your Excellency Wang Feng. I really didn't lie to you. Park Wanji said with tears, trying to win again, but Wang Feng had obviously lost his patience, and Apocalypse cut off Park Wanji's head with a wave of his hand. I don't know if you lied to me or not, but look, I didn't lie to you. I said I would chop you to death if you did it again, and now I have done it. Looking at the head on the ground still with a frightened expression, Wang Feng said calmly, he said, then looked at the other people in front of him, with a cruel smile on his face. It seems. You don't really want to leave, right? Okay. Then I'll help you. Since you don't want to leave, then just stay. After saying that, Wang Feng turned around and waved his hand at Qiujian on the hurricane, and shouted loudly, Qiujian. Listen to my command. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 545. Wang Feng raised his right hand high and looked at the survivors of the 2 races, with cold murderous intent in his eyes. No. Your Excellency, don't do anything. We are from the Tianzhou tribe. Don't shoot. Don't accidentally hurt us. We'll leave immediately. Among the crowd, a guy with a mustache under his nose shouted quickly. This guy was the fish that escaped the net just now during the 6-barreled machine gun fire. Now seeing Chujian, the butcher, pointing the muzzle of the 6-barreled machine gun at them again, he couldn't help shouting loudly, and then turned around and walked in the crowd, squeezed out desperately. He knew that Wang Feng and Chujian were not trying to scare them. If they continued to stay, the previous massacre would happen again, so he ran away without saying a word, shouting while squeezing out. Tianzhou tribe members, leave quickly. They really know how to shoot. If the Zhuhan tribe wants to die, it's up to them. Let's run away. The fact that this person can stand next to the senior officials of the Zhuhan clan shows that his status in the Tianzhou clan is not low, and his words still have a certain weight. As he continued to run out among the crowd, and all the way he yelled, causing chaos among the crowd. Since 2 million people from both races gathered here, most people had no idea what was going on. However, as people spread word of mouth and more people crowded out, soon, this chaos spread to the entire crowd. More than 2 million people are running together, especially among these people, the worst ones are also strengtheners, so this scene can be said to be quite spectacular. Of course, this is from the perspective of bystanders like Wang Feng and others. For those who were running desperately among the crowd, this process did not seem so wonderful. The screams from time to time in the crowd clearly verified this. At this time, there were no people from the two tribes in front of Wang Feng, except for the body of Park Wanji. Even Li Wugan had escaped without a trace. The people of the two tribes ran further and further away, leaving only corpses on the ground outside the city wall. These people were all trampled to death by their own people in the chaos just now. Wang Feng shook his head silently, and then jumped onto the hurricane. Seeing Wang Feng coming up, Chu Jian frowned and said, "Wouldn't it be easier to kill them all? With more than 2 million people, how can it be so easy? We don't have the energy and time to deal with them, so let's let them fend for themselves." Wang Feng sighed softly. The most important thing now is to integrate the survivors in the city and quickly improve their strength. We don't have much time to stay here. We don't know what the situation in Zizhu continent will be like yet. Looking up at the busy Dilit city, Wang Feng let out a sigh of relief. They are integrating personnel. At this time, it is best for us to calm down a little. Those people can't escape from this continent anyway, we will definitely not be the ones who have to worry about them in the future. Kavya saw that all the people from the two tribes had left, so she saluted Wang Feng with a military salute and then left. However, Augustine did not follow Wang Feng here this time and had already gone to do his own business. Things went. Since Wang Feng and the others are outsiders and cannot get involved in what is going on there, they have become the most laid-back people in the entire Dilit city, but they are not in the mood to go to the inner city now. To appreciate the exotic customs, just wait there quietly. It was not until evening that Christopher and Toriaha came over to find Wang Feng and the others. They said that a banquet had been prepared for them in the inner city and invited them to come. They also asked for Augustine and Inovika's help. They apologized because there were too many things going on and they couldn't get out, so they asked these two people to come over and invite them. Wang Feng didn't feel dissatisfied with this. After all, this was a large base with a population of 200 million. There must be a lot of things to prepare for. There were only a few million people in the Hope base, and Duan Lei and Luqiang were preparing for it every day. It's going to be a busy time, let alone here. After driving the hurricane to the inner city, he found that the banquet was not ready yet, so Wang Feng asked Toriaha and Christopher to take them to the underground fortress. He had only heard about this world-famous underground fortress. Haven't seen it with my own eyes. To Wang Feng's request, Toriaha and Christopher happily obeyed and took them downstairs for almost an hour. This hour opened Wang Feng's eyes and he couldn't help but sigh, a fighting nation is a fighting nation. There is also an underground fortress like this in Juking City. Wang Feng went in to see it at that time, but compared with the underground fortress in Dilit City, the two are no longer on the same level. This underground fortress in Dilit City even has a planting field, which uses lights to simulate sunlight, allowing them to grow plants underground. Although the total area is not very large, it should be enough for emergency use, especially now. Zombie corpses can be used to ripen crops. As for other various facilities, they are also quite complete. There is even a simulated open-air park where people can relax. The simulated environment is quite realistic. If you don't observe carefully, you will really think that there is something above your head. The sky, not the ceiling used to simulate the sky. Due to time constraints, Wang Feng just took a quick look at it. But even so, Wang Feng also wished he could move this underground fortress to the Hope Base. Unfortunately, for now, he can only think about it. Even if the Hope Base does not lack resources now, it is basically impossible to build a fortress of the same scale. After all, the underground fortress in Chris City is said to have taken 100 years to complete. I don't know how much renovation and expansion was done during this period. When they returned to the banquet hall prepared for them, Augustine and Inovic had arrived first. The banquet here was different from that of Wang Feng and the others in the East Continent. Not everyone gathered around one table. At Zhang's table, everyone ate, drank, and talked. The banquet here is in the form of a buffet, and all kinds of food and drinks are freely available. People attending the banquet hold food trays, choose the food and wine they like at will, and then go into groups to find something to talk about. Friends who come, let's eat and chat together. This method actually belongs to the custom of the Zizhu continent. Generally speaking, Zizhu continent does not eat and drink like this, but it may be because the Blood Hand Party was first said to be founded by the nobles of the Zizhu continent, so this custom has been continued. Augustine, the leader of the Blood Hand Party, is naturally no stranger to this method. In addition, there are many people who want to talk to each other today, so they adopted this open dining method. Of course, Wang Feng and Qiu Jian had not arrived yet, so the dinner had not officially started yet. Some people who were qualified to attend the dinner were in groups in the banquet hall, chatting constantly. After Wang Feng and others entered the banquet hall, Augustine quickly picked up the microphone and solemnly introduced Wang Feng to everyone present, and highlighted his strength and his ability to synthesize potions. Of course, Augustine also introduced the source of information about Devourer in detail. When Augustine introduced it, Wang Feng stood beside him with a stiff expression. Wang Feng is quite unaccustomed to such occasions. For him, if he wants to drink, he should sit with a few friends, drink a lot of wine, eat meat, and talk loudly. Only in this way can he have fun. For this kind of ancient aristocrat with a strong he was not very cold at the banquet. After finally waiting for Augustine to introduce, Wang Feng finally breathed a sigh of relief, and Augustine seemed to see from Wang Feng's expression that he didn't particularly like the environment here, so he didn't say anything at the beginning of the banquet. After a while, Wang Feng and his party were led to the rooftop upstairs. On the rooftop, there was a round table with wine and food on it. Wang Feng couldn't help but be overjoyed, and quickly called Xiao Wu and others to sit down. However, most of the food on the table were vegetables, which didn't seem to be very suitable for Xiao Wu, Qian Xuan, and Qian, the three zombies. Appetite. However, Wang Feng immediately asked Augustine to find someone to bring some firewood and lit a bonfire on the rooftop. Then, Wang Feng took out a huge marine mutant beast from the apocalypse space and directly put the barbecue on the fire. The people from Zizhu continent present at this time include Augustine, Inovic, Turiaha, Christopher, and two other guys whom Wang Feng doesn't know. However, judging by their age, they should be members of the Blood Hand Party. High rise inside. When these people saw the huge marine mutant beast, their eyes almost straightened, and they kept swallowing their saliva, because Dilit City was a military fortress. Before the end of the world, there was no breeding in the city. The meat source relies on transportation from other cities. After the end of the world, there have been basically no large mutant beasts here. Due to the concentrated population, some mutant beasts such as rats, cats and dogs have been killed long ago, so they have basically been there for more than half a year. It's been a while since I've eaten meat. According to Augustine, the mutant beasts on the Bazhu continent are basically concentrated in the Kuria icefield in the northernmost part of the continent. It is close to the Kurt Snow Mountain and has a cold climate. They have seen mutant beasts from there. He came out, dragged away a few zombies, and then retreated again. However, because of the dangerous terrain there, no one dared to go there to hunt mutant beasts. After all, those mutant beasts such as rats or cats and dogs had already caused them enough suffering. In this apocalypse, the most important thing is the goal is to survive, not to enjoy, so although the price of meat is quite expensive, those zombie hunting teams would rather hunt zombies and sell them on the outskirts of the city than go there to hunt mutant beasts. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 546. Seeing the expressions of those people, Wang Feng couldn't help but smile, and then said, "Augustine, I still have a lot of mutant beast meat here, you can exchange it with arms." "No problem," Augustine's eyes lit up, "as long as you can take it away, take as much as you can." For the North Continent, arms are really not a problem, especially after knowing the power of the Devourer. Augustine is ready to directly reactivate several large arsenals. At that time, ammunition and the like must be produced in large quantities. As for Wang Feng, how much can he take? Besides, Wang Feng has helped the North Continent a lot, even if he gives him some ammunition, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's the end of the world now, and there is no need to worry that Wang Feng will use it to attack himself after getting the arms. Because of this barbecued mutant beast, the atmosphere on the rooftop seems very good, but most of them are chatting. Wang Feng did not give too many opinions on the future personnel allocation and other things of the North Continent. After all, this is the North Continent. Wang Feng can't be too dominant. He will leave eventually. Some management methods may be suitable for the Hope Base, but they may not be suitable for the North Continent. The national conditions are different, and the living environment is also different. Therefore, Wang Feng will not move the entire Hope Base here. He has determined 6 cities before because from the perspective of war, the location of these 6 cities is excellent, and these 6 cities are enough to accommodate the remaining 200 million people here. Although there are several cities with underground fortresses, Wang Feng does not intend to let them take them all, because that will disperse their combat effectiveness. However, Wang Feng's advice to them is only here. Let them consider the rest. Augustine decided to adopt the parliamentary system after the Resistance Alliance. The former Avengers and Freemen will have people to serve as parliamentarians, and each will occupy half of the seats, which once showed that he did not want to control the ambition of those Freemen. In fact, Wang Feng has always disagreed with the system, because he felt that the parliament was a group of people who did not understand the actual situation at all. They put a matter on the table, talked about it, and used various theories and conjectures to try to make others accept their ideas and prove that they were right. In fact, this was basically of no help to the things they wanted to solve, because when they finally came up with a result, it was not certain how much time had passed. However, Wang Feng still did not comment on this, because from the expressions of the people present, it seemed that they were very satisfied with this method, so when they asked Wang Feng for his opinion on this, Wang Feng said, "Just be happy." After this dinner, Wang Feng and his team stayed temporarily in a hotel specially arranged for them by Augustine, and after assigning the personnel, they would go out to sweep, collect the strengthening liquid, and then come back here to exchange life potions and awakening potions with Wang Feng. Wang Feng made it very clear that he only exchanged according to the ratio he gave. As for who the user was, he did not interfere. Of course, life potions could be exchanged and used at will, but as for awakening potions, the user had to come and exchange them in person. As for the exchange ratio, Wang Feng gave them a ratio of 3 to 1, that is, for every awakening potion exchanged, Wang Feng would get the revelation points that could make 3 awakening potions. He was Wang Feng, not Lei Feng. Staying here all day to help these people make potions was also a very hard job. After all, he had to charge some wages, right? As for the life potion, that thing was even simpler. Just get a bottle of life energy and add a trace of life source into it. Even if it was a bottle of life potion, the name of life potion was originally made up by Wang Feng at random, but this thing did have the effect of instantly healing some minor injuries. It is similar to the blood bottle in the game, so it is not too outrageous to call it a life potion. Wang Feng offered a higher price for this life potion, although in reality, the apocalypse points consumed by the life potion are less than those of the awakening potion, because the awakening potion originally contains a trace of the origin of life. However, after all, the life potion is specially used by awakeners. If the price is lower than that of the awakening potion used by the evolvers, it is somewhat unreasonable, so Wang Feng simply opened the price of the life potion to 3 times that of the awakening potion, and announced to the public that the quantity is limited. As a result, the life potion instantly became a hot commodity, and because this potion does not require blood collection, all awakeners can use it. After a few days, there were even scalpers who specialized in reselling life potions. However, when Wang Feng found out, he did not say anything and directly asked Qiu Jian and Xiao Wu to catch and kill all the guys who dared to make money with his potion, and added a rule that after exchanging for the life potion, it must be taken on the spot and not allowed to be taken away. Wang Feng stayed in the northern continent for a whole month. During this month, the zombies on the northern continent were in great misfortune. Not only those 6 cities, but according to Augustine, at least 70% of the zombies on the entire northern continent were killed in this month. The rest are some coastal cities. Because marine mutant beasts often appear, no one is trying to take them for the time being. The other 3 cities are close to the northernmost cities of Bizhu continent, because they are far away from Kulia. The ice field and Kurt Snow Mountain were too close, and I was worried about being attacked by mutant beasts during the killing, so I didn't clean them up. But even so, the Resistance Alliance has gained more than 20 million awakened people in this month. This number has far exceeded the number of awakened people in the Hope Base and even the entire Dongzhou continent. Quantity. Because Dongzhou continent is not like Bizhu continent, not all are concentrated together, so Wang Feng does not know exactly how many awakened people there are, but he is sure that they will definitely not be able to catch up with Bizhu continent. Of course, this does not mean that Wang Feng also obtained the apocalypse points that can produce at least 60 million awakening potions, because in the later stages, zombies have become increasingly difficult to find, so Wang Feng simply used those who have been rushing to the zombies were being killed in front, but due to various reasons, the evolvers who did not get enough to redeem the awakening potion were all summoned, and no one was given an awakening potion. Wang Feng's explanation for this is that he had some strengthening liquid stored before, and the proportion he reported was slightly too high, because he had to consider losses. Now that it is enough, he will add more strengthening potions. Give it back to the soldiers who have been fighting. After all, we cannot let them fight for so long in vain. This move of Wang Feng directly pushed his reputation to a commanding height, making Wang Feng's name known to almost everyone in Bizhu continent. Wang Feng actually didn't care about this, because he was about to after opening, no one knows whether there will be a chance to come back here again. Although Wang Feng feels that if he can really unlock the seal during this trip to the Zizhu continent, he will definitely need a lot of apocalypse points, but Wang Feng will not be stingy if he can enhance the defense power of the North Continent. Although the people here may never see them again after leaving this time, Wang Feng still chose to help those who have the courage to fight. He feels that these people are the real hope of mankind. As for those guys who, even if they knew about the existence of the awakening potion, were still content to stay in a safe city and work under the protection of others, Wang Feng ignored them. Although he could have at least 30 million more awakened people in Bazhu continent if he wanted to, in Wang Feng's view, such awakened people who cannot fight are no different from enhanced ones or even ordinary people. Apocalypse points must be wasted for them. Even now that Wang Feng has earned a large amount of apocalypse points, he has no intention of raising all the people in the Hope Base to the level of awakened ones after returning to the Hope Base. This is war. Anyone who dares to go to the battlefield will be punished. Weapons, those who dare not go to the battlefield, just give you a pot and help everyone cook. Looking at the magnificent sea in front of him, Wang Feng turned around and said to Augustin and Innovic with a smile, "You two. Let's stop here. I hope we have the opportunity to meet again in the future." Augustin and Innovic led a group of soldiers and saluted Wang Feng. Afterwards, Augustin and Innovic stepped forward and hugged Wang Feng one by one. "I hope we can meet again in the future. When the Devourer is destroyed, I will go to Dongzhou continent to find you." "Let's get drunk and rest," Augustine said to Wang Feng with a smile. "Feng. I will go too, and you must entertain us well then," Innovic also said with a smile. "Ha ha ha ha. Of course there is no problem. I will never give up until you two are drunk," Wang Feng laughed, and then reminded the two of them seriously. "Be careful of those people from the Zhuhan clan and Tianzhou clan. You must not let them get close to your city. We don't know where these guys have gone. In the past month, we have cleared almost all the people in Bazhu continent. The city, but no one has seen them anymore. I always feel that this situation is a bit strange. It is impossible for those 2 million people to disappear without a trace. Well, don't worry. We will be wary of them." Augustin and Innovic looked at each other and nodded together. "Okay. I'm leaving then. Take care." Wang Feng patted the shoulders of the two of them, and then jumped onto the hurricane. The hurricane rushed directly into the sea and drove straight towards a huge whale floating on the sea in the distance. Go and embark on the journey to Zizhu continent. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 547. Returning to the sea, letting the whale ride the waves against the hurricane, looking back at the North Continent that was shrinking in his sight, Wang Feng sighed softly. This trip to the North Continent was considered a complete success for him. Now the central area of the North Continent has been fully recovered. Because of the temptation of the potion, all the survivors of the North Continent have gone crazy. No matter whether it is the scheduled city or not, as long as they see zombies, they must kill them all. If Augustine and others had not issued a ban for fear of too many casualties, I am afraid that even the cities near the Kulia Glacier and Kurtsno Mountain would have been cleansed. Now the 6 fortress cities in the North Continent have begun to settle in the survivors, and the defense construction has also been fully carried out. Now there are more than 10 months for them to prepare. I believe that by then, they should be able to give the Devourer a surprise. Just as Wang Feng was sighing, the voice of Apocalypse suddenly sounded in his mind. "Wang Feng, the whale seems to have some problems." "What's the problem?" Wang Feng was startled. "There is a life energy source at its tail that does not belong to it," Tiankai replied. "This energy source should be used for tracking, that is to say, we are being followed, but this thing is easy to remove, you just need to." "Haha. No need, just let her follow. As long as it is not a problem with the whale itself." After hearing this, Wang Feng felt relieved. He didn't even need to think about it. He also knew who the guy who was following them was. He was depressed that she escaped during the last fight. If she dared to come to him now, Wang Feng would definitely not let her go again, so Wang Feng did not plan to remove the energy source. Tian Kai got Wang Feng's answer and stopped talking. He carefully checked and found no signs of the whale being controlled again, which showed that the crazy woman had completely given up on the whale. From another perspective, it also shows that she is now controlling a more powerful mutant beast, so she did not take the whale back, but placed an energy source at the tail of the whale. The advantage of this is that no matter how far away they are, the person who put down the energy source can feel their direction. It is more reliable than tracking with other marine mutants. This method is not much different from the tracking skill of Wang Lu, one of the three little ones. After learning that he was being tracked, Wang Feng did not make any move and still let the whale continue to move towards the east continent. However, he gave up the idea of killing more mutants on the way. When he was in the north continent before, Wang Feng threw out all the mutants in his apocalypse space, and then loaded a large amount of ammunition and weapons. Augustine once said that as long as Wang Feng could take away the munitions, he could take as much as he wanted. As a result, when he saw the mutants thrown out by Wang Feng, Augustine wanted to cry. According to this ratio, Wang Feng could definitely empty most of their arsenal. Because Wang Feng had said in advance that he would take a small amount of weapons and other things, and the main thing was ammunition. Taking things would not take up much space. Looking at the piles of mutant corpses, Augustine wanted to suggest that Wang Feng load a few tanks to take away, because that guy took up space. However, Wang Feng did not really sweep as much as he could. He just stopped after filling up more than half of his apocalypse space, which made Augustine feel relieved. Although nearly 80% of the ammunition was taken away, they still had the arsenal after all, and the speed of making ammunition was still very fast. Moreover, what they needed now was just to build defenses, and they did not need to go out to sweep zombies. The remaining ammunition was enough for them to defend. With 10 months left, they would definitely be able to make a large amount of ammunition to prepare for the invasion of the Devourer. Therefore, although there was still room in the apocalypse space, Wang Feng decided to save his energy because he did not know when Fang Jiaojiao would launch an attack. Fang Jiaojiao had already experienced 2 failures here with Wang Feng. Without great certainty, Fang Jiaojiao would not appear in front of Wang Feng again. Wang Feng even suspected that when Fang Jiaojiao appeared again, she would definitely launch a sneak attack first, instead of appearing in front of him first and venting her anger verbally before launching an attack as she did before. Wang Feng was waiting for Fang Jiaojiao's attack, while the Hope base far away in the East continent had grown rapidly in the past month. At this time, the Hope base already had a population of more than 8 million. Because of the increase in the number of Awakeners and the disappearance of the Devourer, the Hope Legion expanded at a very fast speed. It is worth mentioning that Apollo, this guy, not only joined the Hope Legion, but also became the main force in the battle. In every battle, he rode his elephant and rushed through the zombies. Countless zombies were trampled into meat paste under the elephant's feet. Later, the people of the Guardian Legion began to refuse Apollo to join the battle because the zombies trampled to death by the elephant could not collect the strengthening liquid, which made Apollo very depressed. Moreover, during an operation to encircle and suppress zombies, they also encountered a group of mutant beasts, and they should be the same group of mutant beasts that Wang Feng encountered at the beginning. However, because of the presence of Apollo, these mutant beasts did not attack the Legion of Hope. Apollo rode an elephant into the mutant beasts and let his elephant communicate with his former companions. Probably because the elephant subdued by Wang Feng was the leader of this group of elephants, when Apollo came back, there were 5 more elephants following him, which made Apollo's strength soar again. And because of these 5 elephants, most of the rescued survivors saw the strength of the Hope base, so almost all the survivors they met chose to join the Hope base. Because of the hasty evacuation of the Devourer, many of the survivors they captured did not suffer much loss, and because of the Devourer before, the place where these survivors were imprisoned was not so strict. After the devourer disappeared, these survivors fled one after another, and some survivors with a bigger heart actually lived in the town where they were imprisoned. Because the devourer was quite diligent, in order to prevent his food from starving to death, he prepared a lot of food for these survivors. Although the taste may not be very good, it is still very good to eat when hungry. Hope Base encountered many survivors like this. These people almost all chose to join Hope Base. After all, their number was too small, with a few hundred or thousands, and the most barely over 10,000. It was difficult for them to survive outside. In addition, Hope Base also encountered many small camps. When the leaders of these camps saw the strength of the Hope Corps and heard about the situation of Hope Base, they basically all brought their people to join Hope Base. It was precisely because of the influx of a large number of people into Hope Base that Doomsday and others were so busy that they had almost no time to sleep. Even Lu Wanting did not build defense facilities anymore, but returned to Bishui Garden to help. And now Lu Wanting has encountered a big trouble, because when the Guardian Corps went out to sweep, they found a human base in Tiandu City that was almost the same size as Hope Base. Of course, this difference refers to the population, not the size of the base. Tiandu was the capital of Wangfeng's country before, and one of the most important cities. Of course, it also has underground defense fortresses. And because it is the center of politics, it did not suffer too much damage when the sky fire came. Now the zombies in Tiandu have been cleared out, and a defense system has been established around the city. A large amount of land has been opened up in the city to grow crops. Defense and food are originally the two things that must be given priority in every camp. When the Guardian Corps came to Tiandu, it was led by Lu Feng and the two. Their team was an expeditionary force, responsible for sweeping those large or densely populated cities before the end of the world. Their army has a total of 20,000 people, all of whom are elites in the Guardian Corps. They have all reached the awakened level, and most of them are fire awakened, and the other small part is defense awakened. Doomsday intends to use this legion as one of the main legions to fight against the Devourer army in the future. There are two legions of the same number, led by Tang Haoshan and Dai Guo respectively, assisted by Gui Wuivang and Huang Hua. Each unit drives 2 hurricanes and sweeps in 3 directions at the same time. Compared with Tang Haoshan and Dai Guo's team, Lu Feng's team has an additional Apollo and 6 elephants, while they have more core members such as the Mars Trio and Su Mo. The strength of the 3 units can be said to be almost the same. Old Lu. Tiandu City seems to be well built. It should not need our help. Do we still need to contact them? Meng Fei asked softly while observing Tiandu City in the distance with a telescope. Humph. Then there is no need. Just send someone over and give them the information of the Devourer, Lu Feng snorted coldly. Without even thinking about it, Lu Feng knew that the leaders of Tiandu City would definitely be the nobles and officials before the end of the world. Lu Feng has never had a good impression of these people, whether before the end of the world or now. It looks like we don't need to let anyone through. They're already here, Meng Fei put down the telescope and said as he looked in the direction of Tiandu City. A team of 2 armored vehicles and about 3,000 to 4,000 soldiers had just left the city gate and were heading in their direction. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 548. Lu Feng also looked in that direction and said angrily, an armored vehicle was actually dispatched. Doesn't it look very friendly? Meng Fei shook his head and said, it's not their fault. There are so many of us, and they don't know the situation, so it's normal for them to be on guard. In such a big city, Devourer can't turn a blind eye. It must have attacked them. They may be protecting themselves from the Devourer. Now that people from Tiandu City had come into contact with them, Meng Fei and the others did not think about anything else. They just stopped in place and waited for the convoy. About 10 minutes later, the convoy stopped about 1 kilometer away from Lu Feng and the others. And then took warning actions. The soldiers of the Guardian Legion also posed and prepared for battle when they made this action. However, as Meng Fei raised his hand high and made a gesture, these Guardian warriors turned their weapons. He put it away and returned to his standing posture. A soldier wearing camouflage ran in their direction. When he came to Lu Feng and others, he carefully observed Lu Feng and the Guardian soldiers behind him. After confirming that they were all human beings, then he breathed a sigh of relief. He first waved to the people on his side to let them off guard, then turned around and saluted them and said, "Sorry, we don't know whether you are humans or alien ghosts, so we have to be careful and don't take offense. I am Roger, the squad leader of the 1st Squadron of the Reconnaissance Company, the 1st Regiment of the Tiandu City Freedom Alliance, the 1st Regiment of the Freedom League." Meng Fei also returned a military salute and said, "I am Meng Fei, Deputy Captain of the 1st Brigade of the Hope Legion, and this is our Captain Lu Feng. We are from the Hope Base." After receiving the safety signal from the squad leader Roger, the convoy behind them drove over. Then, a soldier with a resolute face but who looked a bit old jumped out of the jeep. On his shoulders was the rank of general. He seems to be a veteran soldier. It's just that Lu Feng has never been a soldier, so he doesn't know him, and he is not interested in the rank of general, so only Meng Fei nodded to the old general, while Lu Feng simply ignored him. "Hello. I am the staff officer of the Freedom Corps, Li Hixiang." Seeing that the two people did not seem to be very enthusiastic, the old general just nodded lightly and introduced himself. "You too. Looking at the troops behind you and the two hurricanes, it seems that you are living well in this apocalyptic world, right? General Li, you're welcome. In today's world, as long as you are still alive, you should be considered pretty good." Meng Fei nodded and smiled. Hearing Meng Fei's words, Li Hixiang was stunned for a moment, and then laughed, "Ha ha ha ha. As long as you are still alive, you are considered good. This makes sense." Then, Li Hixiang looked at the troops behind them and asked, "Two of you, are you coming to Tiandu City specifically, or are you just passing by?" "None of them," Meng Fei shook his head and said, "We hope that since the establishment of the base, we will continue to search for survivors outside, but the progress is not very fast, because we want to try to ensure that wherever we go, all become safer and don't miss a living person. It's just that some time ago, there was an invasion of alien creatures. We call them devourers. I think they are the same kind of creatures as the alien ghosts mentioned by this brother just now. After defeating the devourers, the leader of our base felt that our progress was about to speed up, because those devourers were only the vanguard, equivalent to the scouts in our human army, and their follow-up troops were less than a year away. They will invade our planet again. So we formed 3 expeditionary forces and marched in our east continent in 3 directions. Our main task was to search for survivors. For those with smaller numbers, we would have them move directly to our Hope base. As for if you are not willing to relocate such a large base, we will leave the Devourer's information to you." "What? You fought alien ghosts and defeated them?" Li Hixiang's expression changed after hearing Meng Fei's words and he asked quickly. "Yes," Meng Fei nodded, "the spaceship of the Devourer's vanguard has been destroyed by our leader, and one of their 2 commanders has also been killed, so now those Devourers suddenly disappeared, because they suffered heavy losses in the battle with us, so they hid and waited for their backup. According to our leader's speculation, they are probably no longer in Dongzhou continent, so for the time being, Dongzhou continent is still safe. Because of this, we will separately raid Dongzhou continent. If the survivors we encounter, if you are willing, you can go directly to our Hope base. If you are not willing, we will not force you. Because our Hope base is relatively safe now, our leader also wants to save more humans, so he ordered us to try our best to clean up the entire continent before the Devourer army arrives." Having said this, Meng Fei took out a piece of Devourer's information from his arms and handed it directly to Li Hixiang. This information was exactly the same as the one carried by Wang Feng Tiankai Space. After receiving the information, Li Hixiang quickly browsed through it. Then, he frowned and looked up at Meng Fei and Lu Feng. "You two, the news you brought is too shocking. Can I trouble you to go to our headquarters? I think the top leaders of the alliance should want to meet you." Meng Fei agreed to Li Hixiang's invitation without hesitation. Although he had never heard of the name of this old general, as a soldier, he could see that this old general must be a professional soldier. His rank was definitely not promoted after the end of the world because he became a strong man by luck. Out of trust in soldiers, Meng Fei felt that he needed to go to Tiandu City to take a look. At least there were some things that were not written in the information. Although he didn't know how many people there were in Tiandu City now, no matter how much he thought, Tiandu City's defense system must be much stronger than that of Hope Base. When the Devourer army arrived, this place would also become a base to resist them. Seeing Meng Fei agreed, Li Hixiang nodded and said, "Thank you. Then, please follow me." Then, Li Hixiang turned around and walked to his jeep. After jumping into the car, the convoy turned around and drove towards Tiandu City. Seeing Meng Fei preparing to go to Tiandu City, Lu Feng did not object, but turned back and signaled a hurricane to drive forward, and then said to Meng Fei, "Old Meng, I won't go. We will camp in the town ahead. When you come out, go directly there to find us." Meng Fei nodded, and then jumped on the hurricane. There were still 20 guards on the hurricane. They would follow Meng Fei into Tiandu City, and the rest of the guards would follow Lu Feng and move towards the town he mentioned. The hurricane followed the convoy and soon entered Tiandu City. Because Li Hixiang led the way, the road was unimpeded. Meng Fei carefully observed Tiandu City and found that Tiandu City actually had two walls. The first wall was built around the entire Tiandu City. It was more than 3 meters high and more than 2 meters thick. It was built very solidly, and there were fire points all over the wall, which seemed to be as solid as a rock. The second wall was not so tall, only less than 2 meters. However, the width was almost 2 meters, so it looked almost square, and there were also some sentinels patrolling on the second wall with live ammunition. It was this wall that divided Tiandu City into the inner and outer cities. Between the first and second walls, most of them were farmland, and there were also some residential areas. Many survivors were busy inside, but most of the people in the residential areas were ragged and unkempt. Moreover, sewage was flowing in the residential area and garbage and human excrement were everywhere, so that people could smell the stench before they approached. Some survivors just lay on the street, motionless. If it weren't for their chests rising and falling slightly, Meng Fei would even think it was a corpse. Moreover, in the residential area, Meng Fei also saw many haggard women in revealing clothes standing at the door to solicit business. Most of them had dull eyes and numb faces. Occasionally, there were 1 or 2 skinny children who stuck their heads out from behind the women and looked out curiously. Seeing this scene, Meng Fei sighed in his heart. Although it seemed that Tiandu City was built more perfectly than the Hope Base, the lives of the survivors inside seemed to be far inferior to the Hope Base. After entering the inner city, Meng Fei frowned more tightly, not because the environment in the inner city was worse, but on the contrary, the inner city compared with the outer city was like the comparison between the slums and the financial street before the end of the world. The moment he entered the inner city, Meng Fei almost thought that he had returned to the world before the end of the world. The wide streets were cleaned up, and the buildings on the street seemed to have just been painted, brand new and bright. The glass of the building was also wiped spotless. The sun shone on it, and the golden light flickered and glittered, as if telling everyone that this was the paradise in the end of the world. The pedestrians on the street also didn't look like they were living in the end of the world. The handsome men and beautiful women coming and going were dressed fashionably and had a leisurely attitude, as if they were not in the Tiandu City in the end of the world, but a resort before the end of the world. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 549. Looking at the scene in the inner city and thinking about the scene in the outer city, Meng Fei couldn't help but feel sad. He suddenly felt that the leaders of Tiandu City seemed to have moved the management method before the end of the world directly to the end of the world. The outer city is the slums between the countryside and the city, while the inner city is the rich area, the real city center. The wall inside directly divides the city into two worlds. This feeling became even stronger when Meng Fei found that some pedestrians on the road were holding pets in their hands. He didn't know whether those kittens or puppies, as well as pets he didn't know, were mutant beasts or ordinary animals. He just suddenly had a feeling that those children outside the city who poked their heads out from behind the women to curiously observe this world must not eat as well as these pets. Alas! People are not as good as dogs, Meng Fei sighed softly. Not to mention that he was on the hurricane now, with only the 20 guards around him. Even if the old General Li's Hixiang was right next to him, he dared to say such a thing. Because this is the fact in front of him, it is impossible to refute it. At this time, Meng Fei had deep doubts about the role that Tiandu City can play in resisting the Devourer. Just from the fact that when they came, they passed by a city less than 100 kilometers away from Tiandu City and found that the city was still occupied by zombies. It can be known that perhaps the army in Tiandu City has not thought about how to save the world at all. They just can't wait to use the resources in their hands to build a city that can resist the attack of zombies, and then restore their lives to the level before the end of the world as soon as possible. As for other people, looking at the situation of the survivors living in the outer city, they know that they have never cared at all. Meng Fei even suspected that if they didn't have to eat and needed a large number of survivors to grow food for them, maybe they wouldn't have built such a magnificent wall to protect the reclaimed farmland. Hearing Meng Fei's words, the guards around him all fell silent. After a while, a guard whispered, "Fortunately, we are in the Hope Base." The words of this guard instantly resonated with other guards. Yes. Fortunately, they were in the Hope Base. From the situation in front of them, they knew without thinking that these fashionable men and women in the inner city must be the families of those nobles or powerful people. Because they could fully feel that most of these people were only the strength of evolvers. People with such strength might be considered strong before the second upheaval, but now, they are basically walking all over the streets, as numerous as dogs. With such strength, they did not even have the qualifications to enter the Guardian Corps in the Hope Base, but here, they could actually live such a leisurely life. This is the benefit of money and power. No matter what kind of world, there will always be some people who rely on various relationships to hide in a comfortable environment and live a leisurely life, while those who really work hard are struggling on the verge of death every day, and their lives are not as good as a pet they raise. The word fairness is not absent in this world, but it only appears between two people of equal strength or status. Only when force or power cannot solve the problem, both parties will calm down and talk about reason and fairness. This is human nature. Everyone will habitually treat the people around them better, so there is a saying that if one person succeeds, all the people will benefit. Most of these guardian warriors were powerless before the end of the world. If they appear here, they may be among the people lying on the streets in the outer city. Meng Fei does not want to make any comments on this situation. The leader of this base likes to be better to his family and likes to live in a better environment. This is their freedom. This situation also exists in the Hope Base. For example, Nayuniu, who runs around with Rura all day long, is actually similar to these fashionable men and women in front of her. What Meng Fei is worried about is that these guys who occupy most of the resources after the end of the world, when the crisis really comes, how much can they contribute to the continuation of mankind? In addition to the necessary things to pass on the family line, What other contributions can they make to mankind in other places? The Guardian Corps also received resources from the Hope Base. Whether it was the evolutionary potion or the awakening potion, they would always be the first to receive it. However, they relied not on their identities, but on the fact that they had passed Li Yingning's training and proved themselves. They did have a better life, with good food and accommodation, and basically did not have to participate in the construction of the Hope Base. However, weapons and equipment were provided to them first, which was considered the preferential treatment given to the Guardian Corps. However, they were always at the forefront of the battle. Although the Guardian Corps did not suffer the most casualties since the establishment of the Hope Base, the civilians still died the most. The number of civilians ambushed by mutant beasts, attacked by mutant insects, and even killed by Lu Feng was more than the total number of people when the Guardian Corps was just established, but the Guardian Corps was definitely the one who experienced the most battles in the Hope Base. Zombies, mutant beasts, mutant insects, marine mutant beasts, devourers, all the enemies that Hope Base has fought against, the soldiers of the Guardian Corps have confronted them head-on. Every soldier of the Guardian Corps has survived the test of blood and fire. They have been sharpened into a sharp blade by countless battles. No matter what kind of enemy is in front of them, they dare to rush forward to fight with them. Even if they die, they must create opportunities for their comrades behind them to kill the enemy. They are the defenders of Hope Base, they are the guardian angels of the continuation of human civilization, they are a group of war machines created by Hope Base with all its resources. Look at these fashionable men and women in front of them. If we talk about the proportion, the resources they get are definitely more than those of the Guardian Warriors, but I am afraid that no one will think that they are the hope of Tiandu City and the guardian of the future of mankind. Just as Meng Fei and his companions were silently looking at the rare scenery in front of them after the end of the world, a roar of cars came from afar, and when the roar came, the convoys in front suddenly pulled to the side of the road and stopped. Hurricane also stopped at the side of the road under the command of a person who jumped off the convoy in front. Just as it stopped, several sports cars whizzed past them. Because the body of Hurricane was wider, one of the dark blue sports cars almost hit the body of Hurricane. This is... Meng Fei looked at the direction where the sports cars disappeared in some astonishment, then turned his head and looked at Li Hixiang who had gotten off the car and came under Hurricane and asked. Alas, Li Hixiang sighed and shook his head gently. He did not answer Meng Fei's question, but pointed to a 5-story building in front and said, "Let's go, we're almost there." "That's our headquarters." Seeing that Li Hixiang was unwilling to explain, Meng Fei did not ask much. From his expression, Meng Fei roughly guessed that it was just a few guys who liked to race. Looking at the pedestrians who had just skillfully hidden on both sides of the road and now continued to stroll as if nothing had happened, Meng Fei understood that such things might happen here every day. In this end times where fuel is scarce, even the Hope Base will not be wasted easily. Just like their expedition this time, the 3 Yuan Zheng teams were only allocated 2 Hurricanes that did not require fuel. There was no other vehicle at all, and they had to rely on their own legs to travel. Although the participants in the expedition were all soldiers of the Guardian Corps, and their strength had reached the level of awakened, it was definitely not easy to travel and fight. The soldiers of the Hope Corps who followed behind them and were responsible for collecting supplies and receiving survivors did not even have a Hurricane. They were all infantry. The vehicles needed to transport supplies were directly repaired by local materials and abandoned vehicles before the end of the world. Anyway, they could hold on to the Hope Base. And in Tiandu City, haha. There was actually extra fuel for them to use for racing. Meng Fei felt that he was just a dog in his heart, and secretly thanked that it was fortunate that he and Lu Feng's team came here. If it was Tang Haoshan and Gui Weivang, they might have turned around and left now. The group finally arrived at the headquarters that Li Hixiang mentioned. After getting off the car, Meng Fei left 10 guards to guard the Hurricane parked at the entrance of the headquarters. Then, he followed Li Xixiang into the headquarters and came to the door of a large conference room. When Meng Fei was about to follow Li Xixiang into the conference room, two guards at the door of the conference room stopped Meng Fei. One of them said, "I'm sorry, sir. You need to be checked to enter the conference room, and hand over your weapons to us for safekeeping." Meng Fei was stunned. Before he could speak, Li Xixiang in front of him turned around and said, "This is my guest. Do I have to hand over my weapons?" "Chief. The commander and the chief of staff are all inside. We are responsible for their lives and safety. No outsiders can bring weapons in," the guard said in a firm tone. Li Xixiang didn't know what to say for a moment. "Ha. If that's the case, then there's no need to bother," Meng Fei suddenly chuckled and said, "General Li, in fact, the information about the Devourer is already written in detail on the information I gave you before. Just let your commander take a look. If you really don't understand, welcome to come to Hope Base to find me. Goodbye." After speaking, Meng Fei nodded to Li Xixiang and turned around to leave. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 550. In fact, according to Meng Fei's character, he would not be so tough originally, but now he represents the Hope Base, not an individual. Meng Fei knows very well that in fact, the actions of the sentry are completely arranged by the people inside. No matter what their original intention is, Meng Fei now represents the Hope Base, and his actions also represent the attitude of the Hope Base, so Meng Fei must be as strong now. This is why, no matter which country, the officials in charge of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs must be hardline. Even if you speak softly, your attitude must be tough, because you represent your country, not yourself. Even if your tough attitude is wrong, you still have to be tough. Even if you make up for it in other ways afterwards and become a little softer when you actually deal with the matter, it doesn't matter, at least you won't suffer. But if you are timid at the beginning and just go soft, then it will be difficult to recover the losses through other methods. Therefore, in this kind of matter, be soft first and then be hard, and be hard first and then be soft. Although just changed the order, but the meaning is completely different. Therefore, once you are soft, it is definitely a very complicated process to become hard immediately, and it is not easy. However, going from hard to soft is much easier, and the process will also be very satisfying. Pleasure and relaxation, Lao Huan said seriously, "You are definitely thinking wrong." After Meng Fei turned around, he suddenly seemed to remember something. He looked back at the guard, smiled and said, "Brother, you have a very good attitude towards your duties. I hope that when the Devourer army comes, you can still do it goodbye now." After saying that, Meng Fei strode out, and the 10 guardian warriors who followed him in naturally followed Meng Fei closely and left the door of the conference room together. "Wait," the guard suddenly shouted, and then ran over. Meng Fei turned around and looked at the guard, still with a smile on his face. "Our commander has said that you are allowed to carry weapons, now you can go in." The guard came to Meng Fei, stood at attention, and then said. "Who said we can go in?" Meng Fei asked with a smile. "Comrade Lu Hongtao said that," the guard replied seriously. "Who is Lu Hongtao?" Meng Fei asked again. "Our commander." The guard's words were filled with anger. Hearing the guard's answer, the smile on Meng Fei's face became even brighter. He nodded to the guard and said, "That's right. As you said, this comrade Lu Hongtao is your commander, so, do you think, he can command me at will? I hope you still remember what I just said. If after reading that information, if your commander Lu Hongtao has anything else you need to know more about, you can come to Hope Base to find me. I will answer it in detail for him. If I am not here, you can also find anyone in military uniform. We have many people who know the Devourer well." After finishing speaking, Meng Fei turned around again and walked outside. "Wait a minute," The guard became a little anxious and chased after him again. "Comrade, I think it is necessary to remind you that you are in the Hope base, but this is Tiandu City. I think that for our commander, if so, it's better not to ignore it." "Haha. Can I take your words as a threat?" Meng Fei still had a smile on his face, but it looked a little scary. "Of course not, I just told a fact." The guard looked at Meng Fei without fear and said, "I don't know what the Hope base is like, but our place is not a place where you can come and leave whenever you want. First, I didn't want to come to you. Your General Li Hixiang invited me here. Second, no matter where I am, if I want to leave, anyone who wants to stop me will have to think about the consequences," Meng Fei said honestly and politely. Said, and then walked out again. "I'm leaving now. If you want to stop me, you can try." "Captain Meng." "Stay." Li Hixiang also chased after him at this time. "Oh. I'm sorry. I didn't communicate well with our people, and there was a misunderstanding. I'm sorry." "General Li, you're welcome. I have a mission, so I can't stay any longer. And as you know, my comrades are still waiting for me, so I won't disturb General Li." "General Li, stay." Meng Fei is still treating Li Hixiang. It was very polite, but there was no room left in the words, and there was no pause in his footsteps. Alas, looking at Meng Fei's back, Li Hixiang sighed heavily, then turned around and ran towards the conference room, leaving the guard standing there with a confused look on his face. He had been following the orders from above. But now there is no order to continue to issue, and now the guard doesn't know whether he should chase Meng Fei or not. Meng Fei and a guardian warrior walked out of the gate of the headquarters, only to find that the hurricane they stopped at the entrance of the headquarters was surrounded by a dozen young people in their 20s. The 10 guardian warriors who stayed behind were pointing weapons. Looking at them, the two sides were in a state of tense situation. Looking at the sports cars parked randomly around the hurricane, Meng Fei took a deep breath, and then walked forward. Among these dozen young people, there were men and women, and they were all dressed up in weird clothes. It makes people uncomfortable to watch. I'm telling you, no matter where you are from, you should call your heads out. NND dared to block my way, which caused me to lose the game. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I will have no shame in the future. A young man with purple hair, earrings on his ears, and a black leather suit with several holes in it was pointing at the guardian soldiers in the car and shouting. "Why do I feel that the reason why you come out like this is not because of your face, but because of your father?" Meng Fei walked up, looked at this pale-faced young man who looked a bit like a vampire baron and said, "I'm their leader. Just tell me if you have anything." "What's wrong with Dad?" The young man turned around and looked at Meng Fei, and said with a look of contempt, "Having a dad you can rely on is also a kind of strength. Do you think you can't rely on such a dad? A stinky soldier. What are you pulling?" "Well, seeing you like this, I think it's not a bad thing not to have such a father." Meng Fei nodded and said, "When it comes to verbal attacks, Meng Fei let this young man use half of his tongue to swipe at him. Street. Don't talk nonsense. Your car blocked my way just now, causing me to lose the race. Now hurry up and make up for it. I think your car is good, so you can stay and compensate me. Now get out of here." The young man was stunned for a moment, and then he seemed to realize that he might not be as good as Meng Fei in terms of language expression ability, so he stopped discussing his father's problem with Meng Fei and directly stated his intention. "Will you pay for the car?" Meng Fei asked a little funny. "Yes. While I'm in a good mood now, you should get out of here. Otherwise, if I change my mind later, you won't just have to accompany the car, you will also have to stay." The young man held his head high, like a proud little rooster. "Leave us here?" The people inside also said this just now, but we still walked out. If I guessed correctly, one of the people who spoke may be your father. Do you think there is something your father can't do? Can you do it? Although Meng Fei kept smiling, everyone could tell from his words that he was definitely a smiling tiger. What? The young man glared, looked at the command post behind Meng Fei, and then looked at Meng Fei. Who are you? Can it be that my father can't even hum you? This question, you should ask your father. I am not obligated to answer you. Get out of the way now. We are leaving, Meng Fei said and walked towards the hurricane. Stop, the young man suddenly shouted, then turned to the two guards who had been standing at the entrance of the command department and shouted, stop him. If anyone dares to leave, I will shoot him directly. If anything happens, I will carry it. The two guards at the door looked at each other and then at Meng Fei, then returned to their standing posture, looking forward, pretending to be terracotta warriors and horses, motionless. Dare you disobey me? I'll ask my dad to drive you two to the outer city to farm, you two cowards. Seeing the guards disobeying his orders, the young man couldn't help but feel a great loss of face and said cursed. Get in the car and block their car. Let's see where he goes. The young man couldn't direct the guards, so he turned his target to his friends. These guys were very considerate and immediately moved the sports cars parked nearby. After a while, the hurricane was surrounded in the middle. Ha 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 ha. Boy, keep driving. Let me see how you go. The young man couldn't help laughing loudly when he saw the hurricane being surrounded by sports cars. At this time, Meng Fei had jumped on the roof of the hurricane. He looked at the young man and smiled and said, do you really want to see it? After saying that, he lightly patted the roof of the car. The hurricane started to move in an instant and faced the parked car in front. Two sports cars drove past. When the two young men in the car saw hurricane, they drove over regardless of the fact that they were still in the sports car. They screamed in fright, jumped out of the car and ran to the side. The two sports cars turned from three-dimensional to flat under the huge wheels of the hurricane. If a piece of colored paper was laid below, it would be a poster of famous cars. Seeing that their favorite cars were destroyed, the two young men who just jumped out of the car, I couldn't help shouting angrily. When the purple-haired young man saw this scene, he was furious. He rushed directly to a guard at the door, grabbed his submachine gun without any explanation, and pointed the gun at Meng Fei and Meng Fei on the roof of the hurricane. Those Guardian soldiers shouted loudly, stop. The Guardian warriors driving the hurricane naturally ignored them and continued to drive the hurricane, preparing to return along the original path. At this moment, a high-pitched tenor came from the direction of the headquarters gate. Stop it all.